Dear students, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Anzur Ahmed, lecturer history. Our today's topic for 12th class students of history subject is what do you know about the permanent settlement of Bengal of 1793? Dear students, in this question we have to know about the permanent settlement of Bengal of 1793 AD. Before trying to know about the permanent settlement, let me make you understand, dear students, that Britishers or the English people had come to India with the primary purpose of taking India's wealth to England, with the primary purpose of getting more and more economic benefits from India. And we know that India was mostly an agricultural country when Britishers arrived here, and most of the people in India, about 80 to 90% population in India, was engaged in cultivation of various crops in the agricultural fields. And Britishers tried to gain more and more benefits from the cultivation of crops by the Indian peasants, Indian cultivators. And in order to get more and more benefits from the agricultural economy of India, the Britishers framed different land revenue policies. And the purpose of framing different land revenue policies, the primary purpose of framing different land revenue policies with regard to India was to enhance the chances of getting more and more land revenue from the peasants. So we need to understand, from time to time, English officers, British officers adopted different land revenue policies in different parts of India, and the primary purpose of framing different land revenue policies was to be able to grab more and more land revenue from the peasants by one way or the other. So we need to understand several such policies were framed by the Britishers to get more and more land revenue from the people. And one of the policies which these Britishers framed and followed was the permanent settlement of 1793. So in other words, you can say permanent settlement of Bengal of 1793 was basically a land revenue policy framed by Britishers with the purpose to get more and more land revenue from the Indian peasants. Now let us try to understand the basic features of this permanent settlement of Bengal of 1793. Permanent settlement of Bengal, a land revenue institution, a land revenue policy introduced by British in India in 1793, was introduced by Lord Cornwallis, who was then the Governor General of India at that time. This permanent settlement had following important features. Number one, under permanent settlement, the government accepted the zamindars. As I have told you earlier, zamindars are basically the aristocratic or the this influential class of the people and among the Indians, among the Indian agriculturists. And these zamindars had huge areas of land under their control. And now these zamindars, under permanent settlement, these zamindars are recognized as the owners of the land. They were given the ownership rights over the land. So the first feature of the permanent settlement of Bengal was that zamindars were accepted or given the ownership of the land estate, and where a number of peasants used to cultivate different tracts of land. Number two, the right of ownership of the zamindars rather, could not be snatched from them till they regularly paid land revenue to the British East India Company. Means that the right of ownership of the zamindar over a particular area of land was intact till he was able to pay land revenue to the government. If he failed to pay desired land revenue to the government, to the British government, then his land estate, his land area which was given in his ownership, was auctioned and given to some other zamindar who could fulfill the revenue demands of the British East India Company. Number three, the right and responsibility of the collection of land revenue from the peasants in a land estate was the duty of the zamindar. The land revenue was permanently fixed. That's why we call it permanent settlement. So land revenue was permanently fixed, in which 89% of total land revenue was to be given to the company and 11% was to be retained by the Zamindar as his commission. Next, the Zamindar had to deposit the fixed land revenue, that is 89%, even if their crops, even if the crops got failed. Means in the event of the failure of the crops of the peasants, the Zamindar even then had to pay that desired land revenue to the company. It was the responsibility of Zamindar to arrange by one way or the other the desired land revenue demand from the peasants, from these cultivators, and fulfill the land revenue demand of the company. Next, if the Zamindar was not able to make due payment to the company at due time, due payment of land revenue, then his land was auctioned. His land estate was auctioned, his ownership was snatched from him, and the land was auctioned, and the land estate was given in the ownership of some other landlord, some other Zamindar who could fill the revenue demands of the company. 6, the Zamindars were denied the judicial and military rights which they enjoyed earlier. In the earlier times of Mughals, the Zamindars were very powerful. They used to arrange courts known as kacharis in their zamindaris, in their estates, where they could solve the small judicial issues, court issues of their peasants and the people who lived there within their land estate. And they had also military power, some soldiers as well, which helped these zamindars in collection of land revenue and maintaining the law and order within the land estate which they had ownership of. Now, but under Britishers, the zamindars were denied the judicial rights as well as the military rights, which to some extent made zamindars weaker as well. Next, the government would not interfere in the affairs of the peasants and the zamindars. Means that the zamindars were made ownership of a particular area of land, a huge area of land, and the cultivation of crops in that area by peasants was the responsibility of the zamindars. And how zamindars were going to make peasants cultivate crops, how they were going to collect land revenue from the people, how they were going to deal with the people, deal with the peasants in the land estate. All these things were to be decided by the zamindar himself, and company was not going to interfere in these matters of the peasants and the zamindars. So next, the peasants were never given any rights of ownership of the land. The peasants were just working as tenants and cultivators on the land estate of the zamindar, and only a small portion of their production was given to them for their to eat food, to feed their children, to feed their family, and that food lasted to them for a very small period of time, which ultimately resulted in their poverty, in their starvation, and which resulted in the death and starvation, death and destruction as well with the passage of time. Some merits of the permanent settlement were, simply we can say, with the permanent settlement, government got fixed amount of land revenue fixed once and for all, because it was fixed. The land revenue was fixed permanently. Number one, the administration became efficient, because after fixing land revenue permanently, government could easily focus on other administrative affairs. The zamindars took interest in cultivation of crops and making agricultural prosperous, and with this help, it is believed that when more and more land revenue was deposited by the zamindars to the company, the British rule in India got stabilized, strengthened. However, in the demerits of the permanent settlement, we need to understand it proved disastrous for zamindars as well. The interests of the cultivators and peasants were never taken into consideration. The cultivators and the peasants were looted by peasants and the company with both hands, and the peasants were also looted by the money lenders who used to lend money to the peasants for the cultivation of crops. In the long run, and it was economic loss to the government as well, and burden of the heavy taxation on other classes was also a result of the permanent settlement of Bengal. Thank you.